On this episode of Working Together, I spoke to my client Dave Kinzer about his personal and professional growth over the last year and beyond. Dave is a father of two with a busy life, juggling many projects, and we spoke about how his health goals have become an enabler for his other priorities. We discuss why contentment rather than happiness is the true success metric, mindset as the missing piece of the health and fitness jigsaw, how to bias towards taking action, our shared love of Oliver Burtman's writing, and the concept of LinkedIn energy, which can make you feel like you're an alien in a corporate world. I love this conversation, and I'm sure you will too. So check it out and leave me a comment and let me know what you think. Right, we're live. Dave, welcome to the Working Together podcast.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm really good. Yeah, excited to do this. Bit nervous, all new, but tiny experiments.
Yeah, nice. We can talk about that a little bit. Stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit as well. It'll be fine. We'll just talk about your experience and your story, stuff that you know a lot about. To start, I'm going to ask you the question I've asked every client I've spoken to so far this year on a call. How would you rate your start to 2026 out of 10 and why?
Wow, that's because I've not had the best start. So this week I would say a solid 8. As I was kind of thinking about the questions to cover, not had the best start just because I did take my foot off the gas a little bit over Christmas and the New Year, so felt it a little bit difficult to kind of get back up to speed. But now feel dialed in, got stuff on the schedule, work, life, fitness. So yeah, today very optimistic, positive.
Good. That's good. Better that than the other way around, I suppose. Starting really
Yes.
well and then feeling a dip. To get started, let's just hear a bit about you. I'd love to hear where you're from, what you do, and all of that kind of stuff.
Okay. So I'm Dave. I've just turned 52. I'm born and bred in Essex, originally sort of South Essex, but we now live in Colchester and kind of North Essex, Suffolk borders. I'm married to Dee, been married for 26 years, although we've been together over 30. Got 2 children, both kind of grown up. Got Stan, who's at university, but living at home, so he's commuting. And I've got Eva, my daughter, who's going to be 16 this year, so she's just about to sit her GCSEs. Got a dog called Frank, Staffordshire Bull Terrier, who's a complete nightmare. And I'm an accountant by profession, so I spent a lot of my formative career in large blue chip companies. So I was trained in Ford Motor Company. I spent some time at GlaxoSmithKline. I spent some time at Tesco. And then I switched and went into a kind of a SME, private equity backed business, and spent 8 years there, kind of helping to build the business, selling it, and then staying on once we were bought for a couple of years while it was kind of embedded. So I worked my way up from kind of a management accountant up to, ultimately my title was CFO, but CFO, FD, not hung up on titles. And took some time out. So last year I took some time out to just take a breather, consider what to do. And then this year has started off with a bit of a bang. So I've decided, so I'm doing a little bit of consultancy work, and also decided to start a part-time MSc in psychology. So I've got kind of work, education and fitness as priorities, certainly for Q1.
It's exciting, but also I imagine quite stressful with all of that going on and your kids at GCSE age and university age.
Yeah, although I guess we'll be sort of jumping all over the place a little bit, but I think as partly due to MMF, I feel mentally more able to cope with that than maybe I kind of would have done previously. Not exactly kind of que sera and laissez-faire and just let things go, but kind of things will work themselves out. My son is he's an adult, legally at least. Hi Stan, if you watch this. So, he can pretty much, do what he wants. He's got himself sorted. He's got a little job. So he's kind of fine. Neva's, really switched on. She knows what she wants to do. She knows she's got to study hard. She's got a lot of my traits in kind of terms of driving herself hard. So I don't really, she's going to do the best she can, and that's I think all that can wish for. It's taken a little bit of adjusting, kind of personally, to sort of get the brain switched on and get that kind of workday stamina that I probably lost a little bit. But I'm really enjoying it. I mean, I'm only a few weeks in, but actually I'm really enjoying it. And I think that, again, one of the things that we'll come back to um, is it kind of about having purpose. And I think that's really important. And I think as good as it was to take a break from work, because I've been doing it and it was intense and I felt like I needed a break from what I was doing, it's good to get up and for me to have a structure and kind of know what I'm doing, and to earn a bit of pocket money on the side is a bit of a bonus. Um, at the minute, it's really good. Enjoying the work. Studies is kind of all new. I'm able to do something that I've never studied. Don't particularly intend to do it as a career, but it's really interesting. And again, that's probably something, not only the topic, but also the motivation to do it, that I've developed over the past year. Thinking about it for a long, long time, wondering what to do, what could I study, and just, now is the right time to I can kind of formalize and give a structure to the stuff that I'm really interested in outside of work. So at the minute, it doesn't feel too stressful. So it's going well.
Awesome. Love to hear that. Um, what's one thing in life that you're good at that other people struggle with?
Um, this is difficult for me because I don't necessarily think I'm better than anybody else. I admire other people, so I think there's always someone who's you know who's who's better than you, maybe in different aspects. But I think the one thing that I probably that followed me, but through work, but also outside of work, is that I think I just get stuff done. So whether I know it or I don't know it, I'll find out. So I think I'm motivated to just get stuff done. So there's at work it was somebody wanted stuff doing, and they come to me, and it was great. You can always fit stuff in, and I like to at least try and be helpful. Never try to not make anything kind of not my job. Because um that old adage of the was it the caretaker working for NASA who puts men into space? You're all part of one team, all working towards the same thing. So try to contribute. And likewise at home, I think if there's stuff to be done, immediate family, planning holidays or, doing the shopping, any excuse to build a spreadsheet, kind of get it done, and, holiday options. You don't have, one thing that's really good, some people say, oh, I've got such a long, sort of to-do list. And we don't have a to-do list because, well, we do, stuff gets put on it and then I just do it. So I think, I maybe that's kind of the completer finisher in me. I don't like to have stuff outstanding, but I think if there's one thing that once I put my mind to it, I can, get stuff done, trying to, and successfully in some ways, not a linear route to doing that in terms of my fitness journey, but I think in terms of work and home life, then that's something that I would hope my children will see as a good quality.
Yeah. I was wondering if you were going to mention spreadsheets, and you did.
Yeah.
I think the examples you gave there were some kind of like serving your family examples of arranging stuff and getting stuff done. But I think that bias towards action is also very helpful when it comes to the bigger goals and the bigger ambitions you've got in life as well. Because I see a lot of people tie themselves up in overthinking that then manifests as inertia, which then stops them from making progress towards the things that they want to do.
And I think some of that is probably relatively new as well for me. Well, I've always wanted to, I've always been better at doing stuff than sitting still. And I think that, but then what I've come to realize quite late, and so some of the stuff I wish I knew a lot earlier in my career, is that, in terms of busyness, or not necessarily just being busy, because I like to think that I was always trying to do something that was relatively productive and not just being busy for the sake of it. But um, I'm definitely have been more of a destination than a journey person. And the journey's always been very busy. I've always been doing something, always thinking that I need to be, taking the next step or doing something else, or, is the right step the right next step? And I think that your life is quite long. One thing that I'll hopefully instill in the kids, particularly because the legacy to a certain extent is it doesn't matter if you do something and then it goes wrong and you can start again, because the mistakes you make or the learning experiences you have, that's probably a better way to put it, are relatively short term, and that's again what I've tried to apply to sort of my decisions now. Is, I didn't know whether to go back to work. I didn't know whether to do studying. They're big decisions. They're a financial commitment. But then at the end of the day, I just thought, well, I mean, what's the worst case that's going to happen? And look, if I don't like work, I'll do something else or won't do it. If I don't like studying, then I'll stop it. There's always, and this is something that I did. I think I tried to use at work, which did guide some of my decisions, particularly later in my career. Is there is always another option, and that option might be unpalatable, but it might still be more palatable than what you're doing. You've always got to do something or can do something. If that is, stop doing what you're doing and try something else. Now, that might not be the thing that is the thing that you're going to do forever, but at least you've got a long while, you've got a journey to go on to explore things. And I think I spent a lot of my formative career a little bit in kind of just on that traditional trajectory of going up through the ranks and didn't maybe explore other tributaries that I could have done sort of along the way.
Yep, that sounds very familiar and resonates with me as well. I think in my 20s and 30s, I was just following the obvious route because it was what everybody was doing. So everyone was just working to get promotions, to keep getting promotions. But it wasn't until I approached my 40s that it feels like now in hindsight that I snapped out of it and started thinking, is that actually what I want to do? And maybe that was approaching 40 in that kind of point milestone and thinking, I can do this for another 30, or I can challenge the status quo and see if I can disrupt it somehow. Um, how long have you been taking your health goals and your physique goals seriously, and what made you start?
I was in danger of getting quite dark on this and quite into it when I was thinking about it. So I think for as long as I can remember, I've wanted to be fitter and healthier. And to be honest, I think it stemmed from when I was a lot younger. So at school, I wasn't into football, which was kind of made you a bit of an outsider anyway. Kind of the school that I went to, I was, I think some people affectionately termed it big boned, but I was, overweight and a bit chunky, and but I was quite good academically. Now, at my school, being uh, overweight and academic, but not playing football, made you develop a certain strength of character. But I was never really good at. I was never really good at. I was thinking that there was one particular example I remember in a PE lesson that we were doing, and the teacher in front of a whole hall, the teacher said, "Right, oh, let's stop. Right, Dave, can you demonstrate doing a push up?" So for just a split second, I thought, "Wow, this is good. I've never been selected to do anything remotely sports," and so I therefore did my best push up. And she said, "Right, that's how you don't do it." And I was absolutely mortified. I mean, this was early '80s East London schooling, but I but that was just that's one example that stayed in me. It just felt I'm not good at sport, and that's what I felt like. I'm not good at sport. Now, towards the end of my secondary school career, I think we did cross country runs, and I can run a couple of, but that's because people couldn't be asked, and I just wanted to get over and done as quickly as possible. But so I was never particularly sporty. But then from when I late teens or book, there's always been a set of weights or something around. So I've always been quite body conscious, but I've never really stuck at anything. So, I mean, I've tried various different gyms. Through 30s and 40s, I've probably had 4 or 5 different personal trainers, either in person at the gym or online. I've tried the, Beachbody app. I've tried loads and loads of different stuff. and I've just not, yeah, just nothing has really stuck for a considerable amount of time, and I don't think I've ever really got the balance between the, the holistic view of health. It's kind of right, yeah, I want to lose weight, but and then okay, I'll eat healthily, so I'll eat chicken and veg for a week. But then that gets a bit boring, so then it all goes up at the weekend. And I think of making it seem like it was a project that would get done and then get finished. And so you do it, and then you meet a certain target, and then it just drifts. So you don't do anything for 6 months, and then all of a sudden you live in not as you want to be and unhealthy habits. I think it's been really a kind of a very much a stop start cyclical thing for, yeah, I mean, the best part of probably 25 years really of trying to do it. I had a good stint, sort of, I would say about 40s. I wasn't particularly fussed about becoming 40, but it seemed like a good time. And that's the last time that I felt that I was really fit, because and made a concerted effort and kind of was doing beach. No, I think I had a personal trainer then at a gym. I did a half marathon. I did a tough guy. Did a couple of things that I really got fit for. And then, yeah, again, probably work as an excuse, and then just fell out of doing anything. And then once it got to the, the white heat of the job that I was doing, I never really felt able to focus on health, and that all went to the wayside.
What about now? What are your goals at the moment when it comes to health, physique, and everything else? And why is it important to you, given where you are now in your life?
So I mean, health, I guess first. So, and kind of, I guess back to the reason that why I do it. I mean, part of it's a vanity project, obviously. I mean, want to look good, and I want to be a fit and healthy, a 50-year-old. I mean, kind of, I don't want to be lethargic and and give in and use age as an excuse. I want to be fit and healthy for a long time, and want to be a fit and active person, into my 60s and 70s. Touch wood, we get there. So I think but it's fitness, but it's also healthy habits, because I do think that if you're healthy mind and healthy body go hand in hand, and I think that keeping the both in balance is important. Specific goals. I mean, I think I've got just a and would stop myself from saying have to, because it's a choice. I would like to just lose a couple more kilos, get a little bit leaner and a little bit fitter. And then, I mean, part of the reason, I guess, would be, as an aside, my dad died quite young. So my dad died when he was 62. Now, don't dwell on it, but I'm now 52. So I'm pretty sure when he was 52, he didn't think, fuck, I've only got 10 years left. I better do something about it. But part of it is I want to give myself the best chance of living a long and healthy life. And although you can't legislate for what's going to come along, I think you laying the groundwork now will hopefully mean that I've got a good chance of living the best life I can for as long as I can. And into the future, if the kids so choose to have kids themselves, I want to be the fun, active granddad going over the park. I'd say play football, but I can't kick a football to save my life. But um, but I want to be able to do stuff with them and go on holidays and be active rather than sitting in a chair watching reruns of Top Gear. So that's sort of health wise. I think I've got some short term, just getting as lean as I think I possibly can be, for longer term benefit. And then mentally, I think it is, and this is going to might sound a bit woolly, but is to be content. And that's, some of this comes out in the reading, is that I think I was in danger for a long time of wanting to be happy, right? But I think I've come to realize that actually that's a bit of a fool's errand, because, happiness is more often than not, it's quite transient, it happens and it's really good, but it can be fleeting. Um, and likewise, I don't want to be sad all the time, but I think there's this kind of this, just be content with the way things are. And so I think people use them interchangeably because they all want to be happy with work or happy with home life. But I think content is more of kind of a warm, sustainable feeling about stuff rather than a kind of boom and bust of extremes of emotion or extremes of being busy, or so, just to have kind of, a good balance. Happy with the way that my health is, that the training's going well, that I'm consistently eating well and feeling good about it and getting good sleep and all of the stuff that goes with it. That if I'm working or not working or whatever I choose to do, then that's, I'm not bored or not doing stuff that I don't really want to do, or the sacrifices that I make are kind of my choices. So I think it's about just, trying to, yeah, find a place where everything sort of exists. Yeah, maybe I never find it, but, but just content that, you can ride, and you're able to, ride the peaks and troughs, with equal measure. Maybe that's a little bit too deep and woolly, but I think that that's where people, or in my experience, people have necessarily failed or not considered, is that, happiness, a state of everyday 24/7 happiness is an unachievable goal. And it's just about, are you content with what you've got?
Do you No, that was a leading version of the question.
Yeah.
I'll ask the other version.
So,
How do you strike the balance between clearly having goals and wanting some kind of like aspects of your health or your work that you want to improve on, that you're working on actively like right now, with that desire for contentment?
I think now, because I see it more as my choice. So if I choose to invest my time and energy in something, then now I think it's because I would say it's selfish, but I think you have to be a little bit selfish, because both at work and at home, because one, by investing time in yourself, you're going to be the best version of yourself to succeed and do your best in whatever walk of life it is, or whatever part of your life it is. So I think now I'm more able to be a bit picky about, what I choose to do, and don't feel like I'm being forced or coerced into doing something. So if like this week, I know that I'm pretty well scheduled for the majority of the week. I'm accountable for that. That's me, because I've made the decision. So I have filled my diary with stuff, but that's because I've made some adjustments, and I, you know, I want to get up at 5:15 in the morning to get training done, because otherwise I won't get it done. But I know that I need to do that in order to feel good and tick the box. I committed to do a job, so I'm going to do my best. But that means that I've got to set aside 8 till 5 on 2.5 days to do that and study. Then yeah, I need to set some time aside for that. And if it means I have to sacrifice a bit of the weekend, then that's my choice to do it. So I think it's about feeling empowered to make those decisions, is why I don't feel forced to do it. I think if you feel boxed in or coerced, or you don't feel like you're in control of your own destiny, I think that's where it becomes kind of a little bit pressurized. I also setting myself relatively short-term goals. So for now, I'm looking to the end of March as to kind of a block of activity. Plus, it's dark and miserable, and there's not a lot going on outside anyway. So doing a desk job and sitting doing studying doesn't seem like a complete waste of outside time. So yeah, I think that's it. Is feeling able to make my own decisions, and being grateful for the fact that I know that I'm in a relatively privileged position to do that. Not many, not all people are able to make the same decisions, but I think there's a spectrum. There's always little bits. There's always parts of your life that you're able to take control of, and just taking a little bit of ownership back, I think, helps you strive to be a little bit more happy with the way things are.
So some of the contentment is about recognizing the great things that you have in your life and being appreciative of that. Some of the contentment, it sounds like, comes from the autonomy, and having the autonomy to actually make the decision to push yourself and do new things, which makes sense. Um, When did you join Mind and Matter Fitness? And if you can remember, what were those first couple of months like?
So I think I started in April last year. I think that's when I did the introduction course. Um, we'll come on to what I like about it. But I think right from the initial bit, I think it was you know, the style resonated with me. So it's just something that I just liked the fact that it wasn't just about fitness. It was more about things that get in your way, mindset traps, more than just if you do 10 reps of this and cut the carbs, then, you'll get a six pack without ignoring all the other stuff that goes on in life that you have to kind of take account of. I just had a really, really terrible waste of money experience at the beginning of the year with some app online. I'll spare him blushes by saying who he is. And it was just awful because, it wasn't cheap. And it was really a kind of dialing it in sort of, oh, here's the app. Here's some recipes, which weren't even, I mean, they weren't even recipes, proper, I guess, we'd done it on AI or something. All his Insta stream was him doing one-handed handstands on a Bosun ball, and I thought that's all well and good, but I'm 50. I can't, I've got no intention of doing that. So, and so the cropped up, and I don't know how, because I'm not actually a massive user of Instagram, but for some, whatever algorithm obviously picked me up as being a prime target. And yeah, once I'd done the introduction session, I learned so much in the first few weeks about, just the training style and mental attitude, and the fact that I had a little bit of time and I was looking for something to do, that it instantly kind of had me hooked. I mean, I can give you all the reasons why, but it's a long list, so you have to strap in.
I wasn't fishing for compliments.
Well, I mean, I you see, what's it been like? So I think, I mean, there's lots of things to like about it. So yeah, first off, we can get the brown nosing out of the way first, which Toby, you're really engaging kind of, and I struggle to use the word because you're not, it's not just a personal trainer, but it's kind of, fitness coach, nutrition advice, um, life coaching, counseling, kind of all in one through either directly or through the tools that are available. I like the app. I mean, it's a really good app. Everything really well integrated. I like the fact, for me, I like it that when even little things like when the exercises are demonstrated, it's you doing it. For the vast majority, it's you doing it. It's not just plucked from YouTube and, some Insta ready guy or gal, gym bro, doing the exercises with weights that you're never going to be able to lift. So that kind of, it's just authentic. I think it feels like a really authentic kind of way of training. I like the way of training. I never done kind of, concepts like Goldilocks or 2 reps in reserve. And instead of doing just, straight sets, making sure you're working really hard and almost to failure. I think that's, developed muscle that I've, not had forever. So that's kind of the fitness thing. I like the community, so that people do that, really strong community that's not a bunch of fitness bros. We're all, everyone's got their, different qualities, different things that they're focusing on, but it provides a really safe space to reach out if you need to. And if you don't need to, then fine. You can be like a passive observer, but you still get, nuggets of information. And it's really encouraging to know that you're not the only one who's struggling with the things that you're struggling with. It's form in the gym, or an unhealthy relationship with drink, or struggling to get your protein. There's lots of people from different walks of life who will have a valid opinion, or at least, advice. And if it's not exactly what you want to hear, then at least it will trigger something in your mind to help you get you moving. And also, one thing that, I've always trained in isolation. So one thing that I think I do get as motivation and I don't think I'd ever really sort it out, but I do get is you do get a kind of vicarious sense of achievement through other people's achievement. It's really good to see other people achieving well, which can spur you on. It can be sometimes you have to avoid the comparisonitis type thing. Say, "Oh, for sake, I only need to lose 5 kilos, and these guys have lost 50." But it's but I think seeing people succeed is encouraging, and also must be testament to the process. I like to. This is funny. I wrote this down, but this obviously this exercise drives a bit of a coach and horses to it because I did say I like the anonymity, but what I meant by that was that people, well, they do now know that people will know where I come from or what I do, but I like the fact that it doesn't matter. It's a kind of a level playing field. Whatever you do, wherever you're from, wherever your goals are, this particular goal is about feeling better, physically, mentally, all round. So I think that that's a good environment to do that. And then the other big takeaway, kind of outside this specific training, is just the whole mindset philosophy approach. Because I think I've been introduced to, you know, lots of books, concepts, and tools that I wish I'd had years ago. Because I think it probably would have helped shaped my thoughts earlier about and how I dealt with stuff. And I genuinely think it's probably in terms of, I mentioned earlier, in terms of kind of a tiny experiments and doing. I don't think I would have picked psychology as a master's if I hadn't have done this. But it's through reading around it that it's really prompted an interest in pursuing that. And all of the stuff I like is, and I think we mentioned it. We're both like Oliver Berkman, but I think you introduced me to him, and I just lovely stuff. I mean, he'd be one of my dinner party guests if we had, ever had the opportunity to do it. But it's also because it's like they're almost like and I think one of the books is called The Antidote, but an anti-life coaching approach, which gets rid of all of the you should be doing this and you should be doing that, you should be feeling that, you should be doing, and it's more about why that, but more internalizing stuff. Well, what do you want to do, and then helping to be more informed about the things that work for you and why you shouldn't be trying to schedule every minute of your day or pursuing dreams or fulfilling things that aren't your bag, taking time out to reflect. So I think that that's the other thing that has been a really beneficial offshoot for me from doing it that I didn't really expect to find from it, is as well as the fitness is just really, really interesting stuff that I bore the pants off with everybody who's prepared to listen. Because I think I just, pretty much all the books I read now, I would say are, like non-fiction. Is all I've always got something from the library or something kind of on order. And then the next one that I'm just waiting to come in is I don't even know if it's any good, but the title's called Let Them. And I just like the idea of that because that's also what I try to do, is what I try to say to the kids and also to my wife. Is in terms of comparisonitis of what people are doing, it's like, just let them, you worry about what you're doing and what brings you joy, what your goals are. And as difficult as it is, let other people just get on with what they want to do.
Didn't know that about the psychology. That's really cool to hear. Why do you think Oliver Berkman's work in particular resonated so strongly with you, and how's it changed your mindset?
I think maybe because we're a similar age. I don't know how old he is, but I guess there's a certain outlook on life you get once you've had some life experience. I think he's very accessible in terms of the way that he writes. So I think I enjoy reading what he writes. I think he can get some not complex concepts necessarily, but you get things across, in an easy to read, digestible um, way. I'd say I like the fact that he's kind of the antithesis of some of the mainstream views about the way you should go about approaching things. And I think there was a couple of, I can't remember, I love him so much that I've forgotten the name of all his books. Is it 4,000 Weeks?
4,000 Weeks in Meditation for
Is it?
Mortals.
The 4,000 Weeks one particular. I think that was the first one. Uh, it's just, he kind of is able to articulate a lot of the things that I think I was thinking, but didn't know, but they were just sort of buzzing around. So I think it's a lot of it. I just think, yes, I was thinking that, but I didn't know why I was thinking it. I didn't know how to explain it because my mind that wasn't, really working like that. So but there's some of the stuff, and also I don't agree with all of this stuff, but more often than not, there's something like, yeah, I thought that. I really agree with that. So I find myself agreeing with, more stuff than I disagree with. And you get some practical tips, but even if you don't, it's just a good, enjoyable reading. I yeah, he of all of the authors, I think some of the other stuff I find perhaps more difficult to either grasp or implement or take on as kind of things that I want to adopt. But it's almost more like that he comes across just the general sense of, and I don't think you could distill it down into one sentence. But for me, a lot of it comes down to kind of don't sweat the small stuff. Take a big picture. Don't put yourself under pressure to do things that you don't want to. I mean, there's so many things in his writing that I really enjoy. And I mean, I've recommended it to I don't know how many people um, since I read it.
What you said about the idea that you were thinking some of those thoughts, but you probably couldn't articulate them in the same way is definitely true for me as well. I think it was the idea that it normalizes some of the things that I was feeling like I was alone in. So
Mm.
that may sound arrogant in some way, and that obviously other people are experiencing these things as well. But the way that he normalized the idea of, or he normalizes the idea of insecure overachievement, and the idea that there will always be more that you will, if you have that character trait, you will never feel like what you've done is enough, and that there will always be more to do. That was like, oh my god, yes. And the endless pursuit of optimality with like how you spend your time and finding the perfect process so you can maximize your time, and then that pressure you feel of, right, I've maximized my time, now I have to optimize my enjoyment of the time that I've like freed up. All of that stuff is just, I have to keep going back and rereading it, because if I
Yeah,
don't, I drift away from the practices and the having that calm mindset around it.
I think for me as well. I mean, I think when I was kind of properly working, it felt like I don't know how to phrase it, but you almost feel like why why am I not feeling it like everybody else is feeling it? Like, is everybody else really committed and really thinks that this is important as you do another night shift to change the font on a PowerPoint presentation? Is this are people really thinking that this is? And I did it because that's what it had to do, but it kind of makes you, after reading that, kind of makes you want to, is everybody just thinking that everybody else needs to do it, so everybody does it, and it creates this artificial world of mania around doing stuff. Or am I unusual that actually I was always thinking those things and have now read stuff that actually you don't do it, and if everybody else read the book, then there'd be a much happier place to be. So because I did do all the long hours, and I did work really hard, and I was a perfectionist, and that served me. It served me well, but then towards the end of it, you just really think, yeah, what, why? And actually, towards the end, I mean, right towards the end of my career, I mean, what? And let's face it, once you're handing your notice, you're never going to be as committed. But I noticed that during the last sort of 6 months, I still got all the stuff done, but it was so much easier once you not don't take it seriously, but just put things in perspective. Mm. And it was, yeah, I mean, I could, start work at a reasonable time, finish at 4, get the train home, and it was fine. I had a nice evening. No one ever called me out on it, said, what are you doing? Why aren't you working late? So I think that's, again, it's about taking ownership of what you want to do. Because if people probably value you more than you know, and you don't have to live up to these unrealistic expectations. But again, probably not representative, because I say I was probably 80% checked out by that time anyway. But I think, but that helped to, to reinforce the fact that there was, there's more to life once you kind of step outside it and take a step back.
I think what you're describing there is what I would call LinkedIn energy. So the way that people show up on LinkedIn and say things like, I'm delighted to announce that, and they're mentioning some obscure certification they've got for the job, or I'm so hyped to be at this conference or this corporate event. And I always just think, is it everybody really genuinely as enthusiastic as they make out? Or are they all just playing a big game, but nobody talks about it?
Yeah, I mean, that's when last year, I became a little bit obsessed with LinkedIn, I think, and I was still, when I was trying to, I guess, decompress a little bit, and I was still looking at people that I, used to work with, or what people are doing, and all their promotions and all the exciting stuff that was happening, and then fretting over the fact that it's like, oh, well, people can see that I'm not well. Yeah, why is no one getting in contact with me? Why am I? And so, I just stopped using it, and then I turned off all the notifications because it's it's exactly that, a bit like I think Facebook became, in as much as you tend to get, the vast majority of it is all of this really kind of pumped up excitement and everybody being absolutely amazing that they've just got this, fantastic new job. And then kind of in brackets, the bit that they don't say, which means that I'll be spending even more time away from my family and be even more stressed and even have a lower quality of life. Or you get the other spectrum that people want to have a vent and say that, oh, everything's really crap. But there's not, it's not really a happy medium. So I think, I mean, our personal opinion is, it's good for recruiters, I guess, to find out if you're kind of looking for a job or not. But it's not, certainly wouldn't be my first point of reference uh, for stuff. But yeah, because he seems to be he's quite polarizing, I think, in terms of what people are putting out there. And I know, but, and I'm sure you have as well. But I've seen posts from people that I work with, and it just makes me laugh, because either they've significantly changed since I worked with them, or what that person is saying is not the person that I know from first-hand experience of working with. So yeah, what you say you are and you do is not necessarily what you are.
We talked about Oliver Burkeman, and you mentioned you've been reading a lot of other nonfiction. Are there any other books or authors you would recommend to listeners?
Well, I'm just looking. So just to the side here, I've got my kind of. I'm terrible because I would say I'm frugal. People would say I'm tight. So I tend to get books out of the library and don't keep them a lot unless they really resonate with me. But the ones that I can see from here, just because they are beautifully written and I love the sentiment, James Norbury books. If I'm struggling to, I'll just pick that up because the illustrations are amazing, and it's like I think the inspiration is kind of Buddhism, sort of Zen, but they're really beautifully written, drawn books. The one that I think another one you recommended to me, I can't read it, is Essentialism. I love that because that was, I think I'd already sort of adopted that mentality, but I think that helped it. So I'm very much for kind of decluttering and not having other stuff around you. There's some awful ones on there as well. But yeah, 4,000 Weeks I've got there. Why has nobody told me this before? That's another good one. I think that was a really good read. And the one that I think I tell people multiple times and forget that I've told them, but The Psychology of Money. So particularly from my background, but I think that's a really interesting expose, but just helps you put into perspective, what really you're aiming for, what helps you, what are your goals? And they're not just financially, but why I decided to do what I did. What's the point of building this huge pile of money and assets, and then you drop dead at 72 and don't enjoy it? So I think that was another good one.
Morgan Housel's just released a new book. I've added that to my list. One that I'm reading at the moment that I think you will like if you enjoyed that is Sahil Bloom's book. It's called The Five Types of Wealth. I'm only in the time wealth section, but I think you'll like that one too. I'm enjoying it so far. I do feel a little bit like some of these guys who talk about money not being the goal to aim for. It's quite easy to say when you've wedged. Like the guys that
I
write
think
the
that's,
book
I mean,
are
very,
loaded.
it's very easy, isn't it? And there's that, what is it? Is it Maslow's hierarchy of needs or self-actualization? It's very easy. Yeah, it's very easy to donate to charity, or, you know, when you're a billionaire. And it's very easy to say, don't worry about money when you don't have to worry about money. Um, and I do think that, yeah, someone on minimum wage is probably going to find it resonates less than, I guess I. But yeah, I mean, you have to, I guess, take it with the pinch of salt. There was one book, I'm not sure it was that one. No, it's not. I didn't buy it. I think I read it, called How to Die with Nothing.
I've
Um,
not heard of that.
right. But that one I did have to bite my tongue a little bit, because this guy, you know, was absolutely filthy, filthy rich. You know, and not you know, when he was celebrating his wife's 40th birthday or something like that. He was didn't just celebrate it. You know, he hired an island and hired his favourite band. You know, to and made them, you know, pay for their flights to travel from Europe. It's kind of, yeah, okay, well, we just have a few friends around, but so, but some of it was still, some of the concepts in it, I think, are still, you know, quite good to take on board.
Returning a bit to fitness. So we started working together April last year. What's changed since then? What have you learned? What's different? And what's the same?
So I think, you know, the obvious, you know, I've lost weight and got stronger. Um, um, and I think, you know, it's not been linear, and certainly, so we're all kind of on a refocusing for the beginning of this year. I think the fact that this is the longest I've ever been engaged with one of these processes, you know, says a lot. I think it's just that I enjoy it. I like the stuff, and, you know, around it, uh, and yeah, actually, as a finger up to the teacher who told me I couldn't do press up, I can now do lots of press ups. Actually, I won't willy wave by saying how many, but I'm pleased with the number of press ups I can now do. I can do pull
Are you
ups.
going to name the teacher?
Do you know what I was thinking? I can remember what she looks like. I can't remember her name. Um, but I bet she couldn't do a press up. Anyway,
Shocking, by the way. I didn't say this at the time, but that is absolutely shocking teaching that she used that as an example of what not to do. And I know you said it was early 80s and it probably wouldn't stand nowadays, but still.
yeah, that wasn't. Weight's gone down, body fat's gone down, stronger, leaner. I think, you know, mentally, as part of it, you know, there's other stuff going on in my life, but I think it's really, you know, a good structure to build that stuff on. And I think it just, yeah, it helps with tools. So I know it's, you know, kind of been up and down, you know, a little bit. And I mean, didn't mention that, it's not purely because of MMF. I mean, that's more to do with me. I think that's the thing about any of these tools, is they're only as good as kind of you're going to make use of them, or how accountable you can be. But having a couple of injuries and stuff along the way, I think previously probably would have just sort of jacked it in and gone, oh, sod it. But I think that's one thing, is being more resilient in that aspect, or accepting that things won't always go to plan, but just being adaptive and then kind of resetting, starting again. So I think that's something that's really good. Having to go out and buy extra weights because, you know, my dumbbells weren't big enough, you know, and that's a good thing. So yeah, I mean, I haven't yet got bored with the exercises. So I mean, I work from home. Train at home, kind of in the gym. Some things I think I could probably be stronger or pushing more weight if I was at a gym, but gym environment just, you know, just not for me. So, but I think there's enough scope and flexibility with the exercises that you can still make really good progress. So yeah, I'm, you know, enjoying it. And well, and I've just signed up for another 6 months. So I think, there's still stuff I want to do around, kind of metrics and fitness that I still think, I've got, there's value in being part of the community.
Awesome. What would you say to someone who's listening to this, or maybe you're talking to in your personal life, who's considering taking their health more seriously, or they've got some sort of physique related goal, but they're struggling a bit with inertia and they're struggling to get going?
I think what it would come down to is just what have you got to lose? Again, it's kind of, if you've struggled or you've been, ruminating on whether you should do it or not, then I would just do it, or at least try, just try it, because I think that once you try it, and what I think is it one of the mention, action brings motivation. Once you do it and you start it, it will be self-reinforcing, because you'll see benefit and you'll get benefit, um, some of which will take longer than you might have expected, but gains will come, whether that mean gains, mentally, cognitively, relationships, or motivation or attitude, whether it's in your weight, your body fat, whether it's in your deadlift or your strength, whatever it is, if you start, you will see those things happening. And then you get into this, say, a virtuous circle, which isn't necessarily linear. And it's not linear in terms of either how you lose weight or what your fitness is. So I find that I can go in one day and be doing, get 5 PBs that I don't know why, but I'm lifted, got a couple of extra reps, or went up a weight. Now, the next time, on like 4 reps down and thinking, well, why? But not getting hung up on that. So it's not linear, but over time you see the improvement. Same with the weight. It will come and go, and then you'll have a day off or a week off, and then taking a step back, you'll see the improvement. And then once you see that, it becomes like a virtuous circle, because you feel better about yourself. So that feeds into all the other stuff you're doing. You look better. You if that's your goals, and other people will start commenting, which gives you a bit of a puffy chest, and you appreciate it. You sleep better. Everything around it is that I don't think, if you're starting from if you like, from a zero base, you won't believe how many improvements you'll feel in your life. And even if you think you're coming from a relatively experienced standpoint, which I kind of foolishly thought that I was, because I've been dipping in and out of it for years, you will still learn so much. And so I've in all the years that I've been trying to do it, have lost more weight, more body fat, and lifted heavier weights in the past 6 months than I've done in any of the 20 years that I've done previously. So I would say, just be rude, but get off your arse and do something about it. Just be motivated to do it.
That last bit that you just said about the last 6 months, when you're saying it, I was like, there's the Instagram clip. I think you're right. I think, and this isn't just about health and fitness, but the idea of motivation follows action, is that in a lot of cases, we have this project or this thing we want to do, and we expect that there will come a point where we have the level of motivation and emotional investment that's required for us to actually move forward with it. But it's actually the action that builds that emotional investment. You can never expect to be emotionally invested in something until you've actually got the feedback that it's working. And then, like you said, when you feel your health markers improve, or you feel less tired all the time, you feel less gassed out walking upstairs, or whatever it might be.
And I think that's, sorry, just cut across, but just concerned. I think that's something that I think I've tried to do more as well, is because I think for some people it might be a bit of a challenge, or not, just not attractive, but it's a bit like when you have something at work, or something that you've been, either tax return, or something, just a horrible job, or, I don't know, cleaning the toilet or whatever. If you do it, then 9 times out of 10, it's nowhere near as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it's done. And I think I wouldn't say it's not quite the same, because I said that, I don't. There's nothing nasty about looking after your health and your fitness, but it's just that I think that you can, if you're worrying about whether you should or you shouldn't do it, then just do it, because it will be, it won't be as bad as you're thinking. You won't be starving, won't be, traipsing across the countryside on 15-mile hikes. If you want, you can do 3 days a week of 30 to 45-minute moderate to hard exercise, and you won't believe, what difference that will make. So yeah, if it come across, I'm an advocate.
Thank you for giving up your time. This has been really good. Really enjoyed the conversation. Is there anything else you would like to mention? Anything at all?
I don't know. I don't think so. No, I appreciate the opportunity to do this again. It's kind of one of my little outside the comfort zone things. Hopefully, yeah, not been too sycophantic. But yeah, it's been good to not cathartic, but I think it's good to share my experience, where I've come from. And yeah, so you and I have got some stuff to do in the first quarter to smash it.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that next week. Well, I appreciate you giving up your anonymity, because that's now gone.
I mean, was it true? No, no, no problem. No, enjoyed it. Thanks so much, Toby.
Cool. Take care. We'll speak soon.
All right. Cheers,
Bye.
then. Bye.